It's a fact. He doesn't care about money. And he did the first 13 shows for free for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was at a time when we were hurting. And he's like, wait a minute, you want me to do the commentary? You're saying that I get to sit in the best seat in the house and watch these fights for free?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously when we turned things around, we made it up to Joe. But Joe is one of the things that I loved early on about. So I'll tell you the story. So we buy the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
They're based in New York. We're moving the corporate offices to Vegas. So I have to fly out to New York, go into the offices and start going through everything and figuring out what needs to come back to Vegas and what we can just throw away. So they literally had a VHS machine and a TV, and there were a million tapes in this place, man.
Mm.
So I didn't know what tapes were these definitely we have to keep or these we don't need. So I had to sit there and go through every single tape. And I popped in a tape, and there was an interview on the Ivory Keenan Wayans show, right? The oldest Wayans brother. And he had a talk show at the time. And he had Joe Rogan, the guy from Fear Factor, on the show.
Yeah.
And he was promoting Fear Factor, but all he would talk about was UFC. And
yeah, that's Joe.
He was talking about how people think that these guys in the martial arts movies are tough and could do it. And he was talking about what UFC fighters would do to these martial arts guys if they ever got their hands on them. And I was like, this is exactly what I need. A guy who isn't afraid to speak his mind and knows the sport inside and out, but more importantly, is super passionate about it and loves it. So when you see Joe Rogan on camera, and I was talking about the paid talking heads that they had in HBO boxing that were terrible. Joe Rogan does not come off as a paid talking head. He comes off as a guy who loves this. And so early on, no media would cover us. So I had to buy my way onto radio. So we'd do these radio tours, right? And they would drop us in. You'd have to get up at 3:30 in the morning in Vegas on the West Coast. And because they're at 6:30 in the morning in New York and Boston and Florida and all these other places. So they drop you into these markets to do radio, right? And the fighters were horrible at it. Fighters getting up at 3:30 in the morning, especially leading up to a fight, never good.
Yeah.
They sound like they're tired. They act like they're tired. And they definitely act like they don't want to be on there. And it's bad radio. What you can't have is bad radio. So the only two people that could pull off these radio tours were me and Joe Rogan. So me and Joe Rogan would alternate doing these radio tours all over the country.
Just talking about fighting, talking about what this whole thing is, like 100%. Getting people excited.
Two guys that are really into it and passionate about it and love it and it's one of the things about Rogan too. When early on, nobody understood the ground game. Joe Rogan would walk you through what was happening literally before it would happen. He would tell you the setup, what was going to come next, and everything. He just absolutely articulate it perfectly, brilliantly, and people at home started to understand. And the impact that Joe Rogan has had and continues to have on this sport is immeasurable. He's the biggest podcaster in the world, and he is on the UFC pay-per-views, 14 times a year. And he's always talking about the sport. It's immeasurable what this guy has done for this company and the sport.
Yeah, still to this day. Like I'll have dinner with him offline. He'll just talk fighting.
Yeah,
he just loves it.
It's true.
Loves every aspect of it.
Yep. Joe Rogan is one of those guys. I saw that early on why would you go after the Fear Factor guy?
Yeah.
To be such a key component to not only the company, but to the sport. I saw it in the fucking interview on Ivory Keenan Wayans.
I value loyalty a lot. And I remember there was a moment not too long ago, maybe a year ago, when I was sitting with Joe and he had a phone call with you. Joe was getting canceled for something. And they didn't want him commentating the fights. And you on the phone offered your resignation over this. I got teary-eyed over that. That's such you're a good man,
Thank you.
That was powerful.
anybody who is with me, has been with me, knows. When you're with me, you're with me. It's a two-way street. It's not
Yeah.
a one-way street. I'm not one of these guys that is going to roll over and it's like going through COVID. I wasn't laying any of these people. Some of these people have been with me for 20 years. We're gonna lay them off. Mm-mm. This motherfucker will burn
Yeah.
before I would do that to my people. It's just never. None of that type of stuff is ever going to happen while I'm here. I can't say what's going to happen when I leave, but when I'm here, the people who are with me and have been with me, they know exactly what's up, and Joe knows what's up, and again, it's a two-way street. Joe Rogan has been very loyal to me, and I am very loyal to Joe Rogan.